Coach, we've got a lot to talk about for the second straight weekend. Number one, Purdue goes down. This time they don't stay at number one after losing. University of South Carolina women's team had another big nationally relevant game, attracted a lot of attention, but there's tons to talk about. What's the thing that's most on your mind as we enter, kind of like 3 weeks left before conference tournaments begin?
Well, Chad, we've talked about it week in and week out. Home court advantage is playing a role, and I don't know now. It's probably like 163 or 4 unranked teams that beat ranked teams, and they're mostly doing it at home.
Yeah.
Northwestern had a tremendous win yesterday against Purdue. And
first time they've ever beaten a number one team.
First time they've ever beaten a number one team. But that game was at Northwestern.
Yeah.
And so I think the theme all week has been teams going on the road are catching hell. I mean, the road is tough. Students are showing up. Just look at the University of Georgia beating the University of Kentucky in Athens at Stegeman Coliseum. And I tell you the difference. They were packed in there for Kentucky. I venture to say if they had the crowd they had against University of Kentucky, if they would have had it 4 nights earlier against Ole Miss, they would have beaten Ole Miss as well.
Yeah.
So Georgia don't have a bad team. I just encourage the Georgia faithful, let's support basketball like we support football, because I'm telling you, Georgia has a good team, but it makes a difference when you get people in the stands and a home court advantage, and it affects everybody. It affects the referees as well. I know we'll talk about it a little bit later. But I think Duke got really screwed against the University of Virginia because UVA, Duke may have missed both free throws. They didn't have to make them, but they got fouled, and the clock went to 0, and the referees called it no good, and in the ACC, and the referees come back Sunday and say, we made a mistake. Duke and Duke players don't want to hear you make a mistake, because that could be the difference in number 5 seed versus number 8 or 9 seed. And if you get a number 8 or 9 seed, you might end up playing somebody like the University of Nevada, and you don't want to play them right now.
Yeah.
They're very, very good. So it's a lot of great basketball, and to see teams still battling. We got teams outside of the top 25 right now, and outside of my top 25, I'm sure the AP and the coaches poll and everybody else. College of Charleston is 123 thing. Boise State is good. New Mexico is still good. Utah State's good. Northwestern is really. Santa Clara is good. Oklahoma State making a big move in the in the Big 12. They won 5 games in a row. Kennesaw is good at 20-7. Memphis is good. Tulane is good. Tulane is in second place in the league behind Houston, and that's huge. One of the best basketball games I might have saw this weekend was Memphis against Temple. A very good game. Creighton is making a move in the Big East, and they've gotten the people healthy. But Creighton has won 8 games in a row. So that's the type of year, and nobody's guaranteed anything. Just ask people playing Vanderbilt right now. Vanderbilt's playing pretty good. They beat Tennessee and Florida in the same week, and they got a pretty good schedule coming down the stretch where they can win 4 or 5 games. Vanderbilt could be a dangerous team come SEC tournament time. It could be really a dangerous team.
It's really interesting. You have Vanderbilt beating Tennessee, I think at the time, a top 5 team, and Northwestern beating Purdue, number 1. Those are 2 academic schools, 2 kind of traditionally doormats of their conference, really, making a big splash.
Anytime you have Northwestern and Vanderbilt doing something in their leagues, because they're both really, really highly academic schools. Like you think of Stanford and Duke.
And Stanford just beat, who'd they beat? Arizona?
Beat Arizona.
Number 4.
And Arizona this week. So there's a lot of moving and shuffling going on in the top 25. But again, Chad, home court advantage, people playing. AU had a tremendous crowd this weekend. Their game against Young Harris, it made a difference in their crowd. So again, as people go and they watch great basketball, the enthusiasm amongst the students is what I love to see, because that's what college basketball is about. It's about helping those students have a great college experience.
Yeah, so home court advantage, you mentioned ranked teams losing. So 19 games last week, a ranked team lost. Of those 19 losses, 17 of them came on the road. Now, 15 of those 19 losses would have been considered upsets. Either they lost to an unranked team or a team that's ranked lower than them. 14 of those 15 came on the road. 12 of the 19 losses by ranked teams were against unranked teams, and 11 of those were on the road. So, you've been talking about it. It's so true. You mentioned Augusta University. I'll get that in there real quick. I remember a few years ago, it was when Tyshawn Crawford was a sophomore. He had just come, and you told me, when this team starts to get a little older, a little more experience together, and then they get a big crowd in here, a lot of these schools are going to have trouble sticking with Augusta, and that was so evident Saturday. 2,300 fans to see Augusta versus Young Harris. Augusta gets out to a 38-14 lead, coast to victory, never close, and Wednesday night, Augusta will host USC-Aiken in a very important Peach Belt Conference matchup. And so, and Wednesday versus Saturday is kind of like student night at Augusta University. Wouldn't you say the students are much more likely to really show up on a Wednesday night versus a Saturday?
Yeah, that's one of the things I think, especially at Augusta University, is still basically a Monday through Friday institution. The kids go home. They're not there to support the teams. And that's the difference in what it was 15 or 20 years ago when we had tremendous student participation. If Augusta University is going to finish off the season like they're capable of finishing off, Coach Mitras and those players deserve the sixth man.
Yeah.
And the sixth man should be the students, and take a lot of pride in that because they can make AU, Christenberry Fieldhouse, Clint Bryant floor.
Yeah.
A very tough place to play, which it should be a very tough place to play. So, and I think you see that all over the country with a lot of different teams. I think your stats are exactly right. Going on the road in league play now stuff, especially if you're a ranked team, maybe a rival game or whatever, you have a bullseye on your back, and USC-Aiken season was made 2 weeks ago when they beat Augusta University. Now, to beat Augusta twice in the same season, that would be something. So I feel that this year, unlike some other years, there'll be a lot of people from across the river make their way to Augusta, hoping to see USC-Aiken upset. And then you got a very tight race at the top of the Peach Belt, like in a lot of conference, with Augusta, North Georgia, Young Harris, USC-Aiken, all still battling for a spot. But then you can't play teams like Flagler or Columbus State cheap as well because they're tough on their home floors.
So true, so true. Now, keeping with this home court thing, that Duke, Virginia, so much I'd like to get your thoughts on. One, very first thing is, this is the first year that Coach K is not on the sideline. And they called that foul, and then they took that foul back. That doesn't happen. I don't care what court it's on. That doesn't happen if Coach K is on that sideline. Do you agree?
I think I'll agree with you there, Chad. I think what's really tough is that Duke came in and played a tremendous game with some young kids after basically getting their behinds handed to them at the University of Miami on Monday. Miami really, really played well. Miami right now, I have them in right now, University of Miami, ranked 10th in the country. I think they have proven over the last 10 days to 2 weeks that they're one of the better teams in the country. And they remind me a lot of the UCLA team back in 1981 when we lost to go to the Final Four. And they're not very big, but they're very skilled and got very, very good guards.
Yeah.
And so, but getting back to the Duke-Virginia game, they draw a tremendous out-of-bounds play with a little under 2 seconds left in the game. Kid gets a layup, fouled at the basket. Now, what I can understand, you're missing a comment, but they called the foul, went to the monitor and changed it, which was wrong.
Yeah.
And then looked at it for at least 5 or 10 minutes and still got it wrong.
Yeah.
And see, I think that's on the referees, and they get paid enough to make it right, especially when you got instant replay. We can understand you might miss it because in basketball things happen so quickly and all of that. But you got the clock, you see in the play, the kid was fouled, the ball was out of his hands before it hit zero. Boom. Now, I'd like to see the ACC and the NCAA take responsibility and, hey, suspend those referees for a few games.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, no ACC tournament,
Yeah.
no NCAA tournament. That way, you're putting some teeth in it because they just cost Duke, which I think Duke could be a 5 seed, maybe a 6 seed. Now, in losing that game, they'd be 8th, 9th, 10th seed. It's tough from that position to move on in the NCAA because your competition when, 9 plays 10 or 8 plays 9, whatever, those games are closely contested games against really good teams out of leagues that might not be Power 5 leagues but have good basketball.
Would have been, to your point, when it comes to seeding those NCAA tournament teams, a win at Virginia means so much. Clemson has fallen on hard times, lost 3 in a row. Now they're still 10-4 in the ACC. And Joe Lunardi, the bracketology guy for ESPN, he was saying on Sunday that Clemson, most years a 10-4 record in the ACC would have them firmly in the tournament, but maybe the ACC's down a little bit this year compared to years past. And he's saying they need to get a big time win or two here down the stretch. And so those big time wins, those wins, road wins against highly ranked teams, so valuable. So, yeah, definitely a tough break for the Blue Devils. Now,
another big win. How about Georgia beating Kentucky?
Oh yes,
wow,
yeah.
that was tremendous. And Georgia is very close to being. Georgia is close.
5-7 in the SEC, 15-10 overall. They're probably going to have to win the tournament. Do you agree? The conference
they'll probably
tournament.
have to win the tournament, but at least they've gotten a good group. The kid playing center is playing really, really well now. He made some big time plays against Kentucky the other day, so I look for them doing pretty good. But again, I think at the top with Purdue losing particularly, I got Houston still as number 1 in the country.
Okay.
And Alabama is number 2, and they're both Houston 23-2, Alabama's 22-3. I don't think Alabama's lost the game in the SEC.
They haven't, and they're the only team I can find that's undefeated in league play, whether it be mid-major, high major, or what have you.
Right, and they are playing really well. You don't go to Auburn and win at Auburn like they did the other day in a very hostile environment. Bruce Pearl and the people at Auburn have done a really, really good job of making Auburn a tough place to play. They call it the jungle, Tigers jungle. I like it. I like it, and the kids like it. UCLA is my number 3 team. UCLA Bruins are a good basketball team in a good league. Now, my 4th ranked team, probably going to hear a lot, and I want people to contest it, but right now, in the top 5 in the country, I have a team called San Diego State.
Okay.
20-5.
Yeah.
They are a good basketball team, plays in a good league with Nevada and New Mexico and Utah State and Boise State. That's a good basketball league. So it's going to be interesting there. I dropped Purdue because they did lose. They are 5th. Mm-hmm. I know they were number 1 in the AP poll last week, and I had them 3rd maybe, and I dropped them to 5. Arizona lost the game, but Arizona is 6. Kansas is 7. I jumped Kansas a lot of spots from last week. Kansas is playing good. They had 2 big-time wins last week in a really good league. The Big 12 is a good league. There's no question.
Last week you mentioned we both agreed St. Mary's Gonzaga was the best game of the week. I thought Texas at Kansas was the best game this week. Yeah. Would you maybe say Duke, Virginia, or do you?
No, Texas at Kansas. Big-time game with a lot on the line, and Kansas really needed that win.
Yeah.
To solidify their top 10 stature, and plus looking at a number maybe 2 seed, in the NCAA tournament. 3 at worst now after that win, but they'll be a 2 or 3 seed.
Well, and you know their history of winning that Big 12 and the Big 12 tournament. If they go and win that Big 12 tournament, they should probably be a 1 seed, man.
Yeah, probably be a 1 seed. And of course, I still like Marquette. Marquette, I think I had them as high as 5 or 6 last week. I dropped them to 8 because they lost the game. They're 20-6. Baylor's coming along like gangbusters.
Yeah.
They're also in the Big 12. They've had a couple of really big wins lately. University of Miami, who I think is the hottest team right now in the ACC. I have them 10th.
You know, Baylor and Miami, you mentioned right there together.
Mm-hmm.
2 fun teams. You mentioned Miami's guard play. Same thing with Baylor. Great guard play.
Great guard play. And one of the kids from Baylor went to Presbyterian.
His kid name's Adam Flagler. And
He went to Presbyterian, came out of high school out of Duluth, Georgia, I believe.
Yeah.
Did not have a scholarship offer, went to Presbyterian, and now he's a starter, might be an NBA player.
Right.
And it reminded me, too, of watching the Super Bowl yesterday. And a great story for us here in Augusta, a young kid at Laney who played Jalen Watson, who played cornerback and wide receiver at Laney, came out of high school, didn't go to college, working in a fast food restaurant or something, decided he was going to go to junior college, goes to junior college, get recruited by Washington State, makes all Pac-10, and now he's a starter in the Super Bowl and got a Super Bowl ring.
He had some huge plays this year. He had a pick 6 on Thursday Night Football to help the Chiefs win, and he had the game-clinching interception in, I want to say, the NFC Championship game.
And those are the stories you like to see. You know, those are stories, and like the young man that we were just talking about at Baylor, having an opportunity. And this wasn't about the transfer portal, because when he transferred from Presbyterian, he had to sit out a year.
Yeah,
he sat out
that's right.
Year. And so
it's been a few years.
So that was really, really good, I thought. Texas, I got 11. Chad, still a good team. St. Mary's, I got 12. Tennessee, I dropped all the way down to 13. Now, they lost 2 games last week.
They sure did.
And one was to Vanderbilt, so I couldn't keep them in the top 10. Now,
They also lost at home. They're the only ranked team to lose to an unranked team at home to Missouri.
Yeah, and that's the deal right there, Chad, again, is that, you know, you look at that and you say Tennessee, and they both losses on last-second shots.
Okay. I didn't know about the Missouri one.
Yeah, last-second shots beat them, and Missouri is a team to look out for as well. Yeah. So Missouri's got a good basketball team, very well coached, and so it's going to be interesting to see how Missouri plays out in the SEC tournament as well. Then I got Gonzaga, of course. Indiana, I got 15. Indiana's been making a move.
Yeah, they impressed me when they played that Trace Jackson Davis, one of the best big men in the country, and then the point guard. I want to say he's about 6'4". He's a freshman. What's it? Oh goodness, Hood Shafino. Great freshman point guard.
And then you know, I got people don't really know how good they are, but Southern Miss is a good basketball team. They're 23-4. Then Florida Atlantic. Chad, is 24-2.
Yeah. And they're back in the AP top 25
as
well.
Oh man, 24-2. That's a good team. Then I got NC State. Furman jumped up several spots. Furman is 21-6.
Okay. So that's who's coming out of the Southern Conference.
Looks like it, buddy. And North Texas, 21-5. The other thing I meant to tell you, UVA. Even though everybody's got them in the top 10, I have them up there around 18th. Okay? And the reason I have them up there is that UVA has been very fortunate, and they haven't been playing as well as they played in. And like I said, they got robbed in the Duke game.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see how they finish out the season. A team that's new this week you're going to love is Nevada. 20-6. That might have been the most exciting game I saw this weekend. It was Nevada at home against, I can't remember. But man, what a game. They are talented. got a freshman guard about 6'6", 215. Really, really good player. One of the things we'll do later on in this show is talk about who the top freshman players in the country.
Let's do it.
You know, freshman guards and freshman big guys, who those guys are, and all of that. I don't know if anybody wrote in asking us a question, but I did get a question from my wife last night.
Okay.
She said, "What are you and Chad going to do come NCAA tournament?"
Hey, that's a great question. we got to do a pool, right?
Yeah, we got to do a pool, and let's think over the next couple of weeks of how we'll put the pool together and how people can engage themselves in the pool. If it holds true like the last couple of years, some people pools get blown up the first and second round. I mean, the last 2 years, it's been crazy the first and second round. And I think this year will be no different.
I totally agree.
And so what we could do, Chad, is go, round by round, and see who's left and then go from there and see who's left. But I think this year it will be one of the most exciting tournaments in round 1 and 2 that there's ever been, because you have so many good basketball teams out there. Marshall has a good basketball team at 21-6. Fordham University, I got them ranked 25th. They're 20-5 in a decent league and won 4 or 5 in a row. So again, these people are people that we're going to be talking about, along with the colleges: Georgia, Bardsley State, New Mexico, Utah, Northwestern Santa Clara, Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State won 5 in a row. Kennesaw, 20-7. Now you know who's in the league with Kennesaw that's in first place right now that I like and have my top is Liberty.
Yeah, now they play Thursday night at Kennesaw State. So Liberty's 12-2, Kennesaw State's 12-2, Atlantic Sun fighting for the 1 seed. You know what I love about the Atlantic Sun too is when they play their conference tournament, each game the higher seed hosts. I love that. As opposed to in College of Charleston and the Colonial, they all go to Washington, D.C. So if the Cougars win the regular season championship, they have to go to Washington, D.C.
Yeah, and I agree with you there, Chad, and that's what I think smaller conferences should do, because it's all about the crowds. And you played the game. You're a basketball player, and I played so many years ago, and we didn't have wooden backboards, but close to it. we had half moon backboards.
I played on those.
But the thing is that for people to be able to see exactly what's happening is just crazy right now. It's so many good basketball teams out there.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Well, now you want to talk about freshmen? I love that topic.
Well, I think it's freshmen, but I will say the big kid at Indiana.
Yeah.
Jackson, you got 2 names. What's his name?
Trace Jackson Davis.
Trace Jackson Davis. He might have something to say about Edie being the best player.
He had a lot to say about it 2 Saturdays ago when he scored 25 and led them to victory.
He can play, man. He can really play. And I think that's what makes Indiana dangerous. The Big Ten tournament should be a tremendous tournament this year.
Now, that's going to be in Chicago. I would love to see a rematch with Indiana and Purdue.
Yeah. But again, you look at the point guard from Memphis, who's really, really good. Oh, God, what's his name? He's a really good player. I think he's a freshman. There are so many good players. And what's holding it up now is that you don't have as many freshmen as you normally do because of the transfer portal.
Well, I think they're not making as big of an impact as they usually do. So I made a list. Once you brought it up, you got Keontae George at Baylor, Jalen Wilson, and Grady Dick at Kansas, Jalen Hood Schifino, the point guard at Indiana, Brandon Miller. People are calling him, comparing him to Kevin Durant at Alabama.
He can really play.
Yep, and I have Aiden Mahaney at St. Mary's. I think he's a great guard as well.
He's a great guard, Chad. And so you just see that kind of effort by these young players and throwing in the veteran players with them or transfer players. It's like, I don't know if there's a game I watched this weekend where somebody hadn't transferred from somewhere else.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's so much commonplace now.
Yeah.
And a number of coaches, like, man, I'm telling you, one of the best guards in the country is at Wake Forest.
Okay.
Appleby.
Okay.
Oh my God, he can play.
I think I just saw he got an NIL deal with Applebee's.
He got an NIL deal with Applebee's, and he's might be Allen Iverson good.
Okay.
I mean, he's that guy. He's small, but he takes big shots. He makes big plays. He had a layup when the game was on the line the other day, where he went one-on-one and spinned it off the glass to win the game. Mm-hmm. He's the real deal. Mm-hmm. So I think there's players like that out there who, when it gets down to tournament time, well, they know that the tournament will determine who makes the NCAA tournament and the automatic bid. They're going to be some of these teams that you're thinking, well, they're not ranked right now, but they got good basketball team. And I would hate to have to be in the ACC and go to Wake right now.
Yeah. Well, the theme that you just mentioned with, a great freshman and then paired with some really good veterans, I'll bring that back to Augusta one more time because, Coach, on Saturday when Augusta had that big win over Young Harris, freshman 5'7" point guard Chris Britt came in the ball game with about 15 minutes left in the first half, scored 11 points in about the first 6 minutes of play. He was great, and then, of course, you've got those veterans, Miguel Arnold scoring 23 points for the Jaguars, and Tyshawn Crawford, Arnold being a senior, Tyshawn Crawford, another senior, scoring 31. Second time in 8 days, second time in 3 games that he went above 30. And so there's another example of a really high-impact freshman. The other thing about freshmen at this time of the year, they almost start to not be freshmen anymore, right? Because you've gotten your way all the way through a season. You're 24, 25 games into it, and that's when a lot of them start to blossom, right?
Yeah. Well, I think, Coach Metris thought a lot of Chris Britt when he signed him out of Gastonia, North Carolina. He said he was small, but Coach Metris has had some really, really good point guards that were small in stature. And I remember he said that this young man reminded him a lot of Keyshawn Sherrill with his ability to score the basketball. And I think because of the Darren Lucas White getting injured, it's given Chris an opportunity to play a little bit and see some time. And he's taking advantage of that. And I think that's important because, looking at next year's team, I mean, the seniors are gone.
Yes.
And so
you
want to see kids like Britt and the other young man, the redshirt freshman,
Dimitri Gardner,
to come along because they will be starters for the next 2 or 3 years.
That's right.
At Augusta University. And so it's one thing about when you get used to winning and you have a winning culture, it makes it. And that's what's been difficult at a place like Vanderbilt is that they've lost for so long the culture's been. And I'm glad to see that that Stackhouse. Coach Stackhouse is starting to change that culture a little bit, and they're feeling like they can win.
Yep.
And that was exciting the other day to see them beat the University of Tennessee.
You mentioned before we tape winners of 3 in a row. They go from 3-6 to 6-6 in SEC play, 13-12 overall, and they've got the rest of their slate are winnable, a lot of winnable games.
And then what was interesting too, Chad, is that looking at the game against Tennessee was at Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But there were just as many or more Tennessee fans.
Yeah.
In the arena.
I think that happened Kentucky, Georgia, by the way.
That happens Kentucky, Georgia, too. And that's just it. Because you were sitting in Nashville, Tennessee, and there's a lot of Vols in Nashville, Tennessee. And so they had an opportunity. They might not can get in a game at Knoxville, but they can get in a game at Vanderbilt. Yeah. And that just showed Vanderbilt. So I was happy. And that's what college basketball, it needs more of that. And that's what's difficult right now for Patrick Ewing at Georgetown, a traditionally big-time program that's used to winning, and they're just not getting it done. And so Louisville the same way. Now, I believe Kenny Payne will get an opportunity to turn that around at Louisville because this is his first year in probation and trying to build it back. I don't know if Patrick don't have that luxury. There's no finer guy than Patrick Ewing. A great person, a good coach, a tremendous human being, But the name of the game day is to win and make the NCAA tournament, because there are going to be some people at the end of this year with some really good records that's not going to be in the NCAA tournament field. And I think that's unfortunate, and that's why I'm excited about the NCAA increasing the field size and the bracket size, because there'll be some people who normally wouldn't get to go to the NCAA tournament get a chance to go, because there are going to be some conferences, Atlantic Sun being one. They're only taking one team out of Atlantic Sun. Right now it looks like Liberty or it looks like Kennesaw. But if Liberty or Kennesaw one gets upset, or both get upset, there you go.
Bellarmine or something.
Now, but I'm telling you who's playing well in that league. They won't get to go. There's our old nemesis at Augusta University, Queens.
Yeah.
They got a good team. They're like fourth place in that league.
Yeah, well, on the way out, I'll just say, I'm really looking forward to Thursday night, probably watching on ESPN Plus, Liberty at Kennesaw State. And then Saturday, 2 days later, our old nemesis, like you said, Queens comes to Kennesaw State. So two big ASUN games, and then Queens gets Liberty sometime, I think, a week later. Looking forward to seeing if Clemson can get back on track. College of Charleston and Hofstra going down the wire. Those are the top two teams in that Colonial. See if Georgia can make a run. And Augusta University, Wednesday night, USC-Aiken. Those are some of the kind of close to home games.
UNC Wilmington's got a good team.
They do. They're 10-4 in that league.
They got a good team. Now, the story of the week for me, Chad, has nothing to do with basketball.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate enough today to go by the Boys and Girls Club of the CSRA. I know you have had a history there as well. Yeah. But today they had a ribbon cutting that they did with SRP. And they have a center there in the Boys and Girls Club, and they got a mobile unit.
Okay.
That's going to take the Girls and Boys Club to all of these rural counties that don't have a club. And that's really nice. That is a great thing. And that was my story of the week, just knowing that there are going to be kids in our area get an opportunity to take advantage of some of the things I think the Boys and Girls Club does a very nice job of providing in our whole metropolitan area. So we'll be able to get out to Barnwell or Millen, Georgia, or places like that, and taking a mobile unit with our staff and people. So that's good. Chad, as we make it down the stretch, there's going to be a lot of great basketball left. There's still some upsets left, and people get kind of concerned about it. But one of the things I like is when the game is so big and it's of such magnitude, and kids rush the floor.
Oh, yeah.
I don't see nothing wrong with that.
Right. Well, Indiana rushed against Purdue, and some people had a problem with that because Indiana's supposed to be above that.
Yeah.
Give me a break. Those kids don't care about tradition.
They want to do it, and I love to see that. And as long as there's nothing happens with the other team, that you're able to get them off the court without me. And I've not seen any situations where other teams have ran into, some problem.
Hey, to that point, I'll tell you, when Indiana was about to rush the floor, Dick Vitale, and I felt for him, I'm not quite, in his situation yet, but being an older gentleman like Dick Vitale is, he started talking to his play-by-play man, and he said, I think they're going to rush. You could hear some fear in his voice, and I don't blame him. That thing was packed, and those kids were coming. So it's a fun thing.
It's a fun thing, and that's what makes college. We can watch all the NBA and pro football,
Super Bowl,
and athletes are great, but there's no rushing of the floor, and that's all about kids having a good time. To talk about 15 or 20 years from now, I was at the Purdue-Indiana game when Purdue was number one, and we won, and we rushed the floor, And that means so much to those kids playing the game.
Yeah. I'll tell you, another notable rushing of the floor this season was when USC-Aiken beat Augusta. They rushed it,
And last year when Miguel hit the NCAA sending to the Elite Eight.
Augusta over Queens University.
And so this thing about fining people for rushing the floor, man. No,
Yeah.
These kids are there, and they're there to support their teams, and that's what college basketball is all about. And we're going to see some more floor rushes before this season, because I guarantee you this: if Kennesaw beats Liberty this Wednesday night, there's going to be a floor rush.
Yes. I would love to get up to Kennesaw, Georgia this Thursday night and see that. All right, Coach. Well, we'll get on the bracket challenge. You will get on that, and thank you for everybody for listening, and we'll be back next week.
Okay, Chad. Thank you.